Misfits taking on Rogue. Rogue won the season series 2-0, won in week 1 and week 5. Fun fact, these teams have played each other in week 1 and week 5 in the last 3 consecutive splits. They have a 3-3 overall head-to-head record. Misfits were in first in week 4, Emily. They were 6-2. They did not secure that position, obviously. But what happened? I mean, why did they fail to stay in the top 4?
I mean, I think when we look at this matchup between Misfits and Rogue, as you pointed out, Rogue has the head-to-head in 2-0 over Misfits this split, and that was actually like super important in terms of going into playoffs. I think that in both of their matchups, Rogue, just to start off, Rogue did have better drafting, if I remember correctly, in both of those games. But then additionally, if you're looking at how each of these teams play, when I look at Misfits, I look at jungle mid, right? Like it's all about how much pressure can Febiven get on picks like the Azir and then transfer that around the map along with Razork. Although I think like Denick is still really, really good. I think their bot lane is probably the weakest side of them. Whereas when I look at Rogue, I'm actually still looking at their solo laners, but it's a little bit different about how they're going to be playing around pressure and how they're going to be bringing it to their side lane coverage. So I believe in Rogue a bit more, and more specifically, if I'm comparing their top sides, I believe in Rogue's ability to transfer that pressure to the rest of the map more than I believe in Misfits' ability to do so. And I think that's really what this matchup is going to come down to.
Jacob, do you think Misfits can handle that Rogue pressure?
I think it's too early to tell at this point, right? I believe a lot in Razork and Denick. I think that they proved a lot of people wrong about them. You know, when we reported free agency that they were joining this team, people were like, who? Right? Like there was a resounding random Spanish league players that no one, like Spanish European regional league players that nobody cares about. Right? Like even on the show, like we couldn't even get assets for them because like there's just like a small amount of English language footage of these players other than Masters, and like it was kind of hard to get everything put together when we thought that there was a chance they'd get picked up. And so like,
in fairness,
yeah, I think that
I did reach out to my Spanish league friends and they knew exactly. So
I think anyone
that is one cool thing about Europe in general.
I think that anyone who's like super hardcore into the EUM ERL scene like definitely knew who they were, but like the average fan of the LEC or of Misfits are like, who? Right? Like they were resounding confusion. I think that Razork has definitely evolved and matured as a player over the span of the past 3.5 months since being on this team and playing on the big stage. I do think they may benefit a little bit from being online in this playoff series because that pressure is not the same as it would be if you were on the stage. It's definitely turned up a little bit more than it has been in online regular season games, but I think that it will not be the same as if they were in studio on stage. So I don't know. This is the hardest matchup to call in the playoff bracket for me, in my opinion, looking at the early matchups. But I certainly think that I have high hopes for this Misfits team moving forward. Obviously, they improved from like the super team we thought they would be last season that crashed and burned miserably. And so one step further right now. So I certainly think we're on a good trajectory here.
Two dangerous words when analyzing a competitive team: on paper. On paper. Perfectly describes last season, I suppose. Tyler, I do have a question for you. Rogue won the season series 2-0, right? Mm-hmm. But of course, those games were on LAN. We're online now. Taking that into consideration also, how much stock do you give to the regular season games? How much does that factor into your analysis, thinking, okay, Rogue won the season series, so how much weight do you put on that for Rogue to win the playoff games?
I mean, the game is still the same. It's not like it's the NFL, right? And everyone's playing with, something else but a football. They're still playing League of Legends at the end of the day. It's a different environment, but it's still the same game. I will say, though, that Rogue did look very lost last weekend, so I would put a lot more stock on just how they looked going into the playoffs. I still think Rogue's going to win. I'm going to hitch myself to this bandwagon until it goes off the rails completely and falls off the cliff, because I'm going down off the ship with these guys. I believe in Rogue. I think Larson, in the battle of kind of the mid-lane superstars, or budding superstars, if you want to say. I mean, Fevin already had his peak on Fnatic, and now has kind of reinvented himself on Misfits. I believe in Larson. Larson, for me, is a player that I've always kind of liked since the amateur scene, and I think he's been very good this season.